Alrighty, so topic 4 introduces standard form, which you've heard me talk about now already because of your line project. So once we're done with this video, you will be able to start writing your equations in standard form, which is the last form you need to know. So let's start with just a little bit of a review. We've got a line graphed on this graph here. It says use the graph to answer the questions. What is the equation line in slope-intercept form? We're pros at this by now, right? Our y-intercept is -6 here. I can tell I've got 2 perfect points. So that's up 4, because my axis is changing here, over 2. So my slope would be 2. My y-intercept is -6. So y equals 2x minus 6. Okay. Number 2 is a real throwback question. Describe the 2 transformations that have been performed on the parent function, which we know is y equals x, in order to create the line. Well, parent function slope is a 1. Parent function y-intercept is a 0. So I know that my slope has been increased, so the slope is steeper. And I know that my y-intercept has decreased, meaning it has shifted down. 6 units if we want to be particular. Okay, just a little throwback question there. Now number 3 says what we are here to learn about. Write the equation line in standard form. Well, before we do that, let me actually just tell you what standard form is. It looks like ax plus by equals c. Okay? Now, this is a very silly form. None of the coefficients have meaning. Okay, which is kind of weird. So it's not like A is the slope, B is not the y-intercept, C is not the x-intercept. Literally A, B, and C are just the numbers that they are. They have no meaning from the graph. So I can't go straight from our equation of y equals 2x minus 6 and say, oh, the slope's 2, let me put a 2 here. We can't do that. The only way to form standard form, we'll jump ahead for a second, is to get through slope-intercept form. Okay, this is on your flow chart. So you'll see slope-intercept form has to be there in order for you to get to standard form. That is the only path to standard form. So it's not like you can skip things. You can't go straight from slope down here. That doesn't work. Okay, you can't even go from slope to y-intercept and then jump down here. That doesn't work either. Literally the only path to get to standard form is to get slope-intercept form first and then just kind of change it into that form. So there's a couple rules we need to know about standard form. Let me go back. So first of all, with A, B, and C, none of those can be fractions or decimals. Okay, they have to be whole numbers. And A, in particular, cannot be negatives. B and C can, though. Now, you might find in a textbook or online somewhere where you see A that is negative. And that is a thing that's out there. Standard form is kind of debated by different people. So some people say that A can be negative, some people say that A cannot. It just kind of depends on who you talk to. For the purposes of our class and the purposes of STAR, A is going to always be positive. Okay, so let's kind of go back up to this problem that we had. We said that y equals, right over here, 2x minus 6. That was the equation we had. Well, in order to change it into standard form, I just needed to fit this form, this arrangement. So I'm going to move the 2x by subtracting on both sides over here. Okay, and then I just check to see, does it follow all the rules? Because I've got ax plus by equals c. I've got all the parts here. But it's breaking the rule where a cannot be negative, right? So instead, I'm just going to multiply this whole equation by -1. So I've got positive 2x minus y equals positive 6. That would be my standard form for this graph. It's at the top of our page. Okay, so it's literally just another way of writing it. It doesn't mean anything. You can't look at that and know what the slope is. It's literally just another way of arranging all of the terms in the equation. So let's try another one. Let's try a bunch more, actually. So looking at number 1 here, again, I want it to look like ax plus by equals c. In other words, I need the x and the y here, c on the other side. So all I need to do on number 1 is add 2x over. So I've got 2x plus 4y equals -8. I check to make sure it's not breaking any rules. So I don't have any fractions and decimals, and a is positive. I'm good to go. Donezo. Okay. Working down the page here, number 2. Again, I need the x and y to be on the left-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Check to see if it's breaking any rules, which it is. Okay, I can't have that negative right there. So instead, I'm going to multiply this whole thing by -1, and I get positive 3x minus y equals positive 8. And that would be my standard form. Okay, number 3, here's where things get interesting. I'm going to subtract 1/4 x from both sides. I'm going to pause for a second just to remind you. I go really fast in these videos because you have the ability to pause. So if you are still back on number 1 and you haven't caught up, please pause me right now and wait till you get caught up and then keep watching. Okay, so I'm subtracting 1/4. Here's where I'm at. But now, again, I'm checking to see if I'm breaking rules. Well, not only do I have a negative here, which I can't have, I also have a fraction, which I'm not allowed to have. So I need to do something to this equation to get rid of both of those things. So I'm going to multiply my whole equation by a negative, because that'll get rid of that first negative, and by 4, because that will clear my fraction. Now I need to multiply it by every piece, right? So I've got a positive x, but now a negative 4y, and a -8. This is good to go, okay? Yes, I've got some negatives, but not on my a. I have no fractions or decimals, so I'm good to go. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's try number 4 up here. Again, first I need to just even move my x over. So -0.5x plus y equals -4. I can't have that decimal or that negative, so multiply the whole thing by a -2. Now, why did I choose 2? Well, I know that 0.5 is a half. How can I get rid of a half? By doubling it. So I've got positive x minus 2y equals positive 8. Okay? Now, number 5 is kind of mean. They're making us write the equation first. They're giving us the m and the b. So I'm going to go over here and write it in slope-intercept form first. Now I'm going to change it into standard form. So I have to start by adding that 1/4 x over. So 1/4 x plus y equals a half. Now I don't have a -a, which is good, but I still have this 4th and this half, right? So I need to think about what can I multiply by that will get rid of both of these. Well, you want to choose the least common multiple, okay? So between 2 and 4, least common multiple would be 4. If I just multiplied by 2, that would create 2/4 on the x, and that wouldn't work. So I'm going to multiply by 4. Come this way. So I'm going to be left with x plus 4y equals 2, because half of 4 is 2. That would be your final standard form. Okay, number 6, this one has you do the exact opposite. Number 6 says find the slope and y-intercept of the equation written in standard form below. So I've actually been giving you equations in standard form left and right. We just didn't talk about that's what it was called. So this is already in standard form, but they're wanting us to find m and b. Well, they're not going to be there unless I start moving things around. So I'm going to move the 6x back over. So I've got -5y equals -6x minus 60. Now divide by -5 on both sides. So y equals positive 6/5 x plus 12. Now I'm able to answer these questions. My slope is 6/5, and my y-intercept is 12. But again, standard form has no meaning, so I couldn't answer those until it looked like slope-intercept. Okay? So let's look at the back of this page, where they ask you to work your way through the entire flowchart. Okay? Again, you have a larger version of this in your resources tab, but I went ahead and put the smaller version here so you wouldn't have to flip. But we're going to follow these steps all the way through because it says write an equation, which is literally the title of that flowchart, writing an equation. So the first step is to find the slope. Well, how do I find the slope from a table? I do my little loop-de-loops, right? So this is plus 2, plus, oh no, not plus 2, minus 2, sorry. Minus 2, minus 3. Down here I've got plus 4, plus 6. So my slope would be negative 2. Okay, because 4 over negative 2 or 6 over negative 3, either way it's negative 2. Okay, so check. I have found the slope. Then I decide, do I have the y-intercept or do I just have a random point? Well, lucky us, we have the y-intercept. So I get to take this left-hand path, which is much quicker, by just plugging in y equals mx plus b. So the b here is negative 4, which means my equation is just y equals negative 2x minus 4. Okay? But they want it in standard form, so I need to take one more step to get it into standard form. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So 2x plus y equals negative 4. Now I am done. Okay? So we start the process over again for the next table. All the way back at the top, starting at slope. Okay? So again, do my little loop-de-loops. Plus 0 over here, plus 3 over here. Well, that means my slope is 0 over 3, which is 0. That makes me realize this is a Hoy. Okay? Well, the good thing about Hoy and Bucks is that, again, that y gives you your equation no matter what. So my answer here is really just y equals 5. That is my answer, whether it's slope-intercept, point slope, or standard form. Okay? So this is point slope form. This is slope-intercept form. And this is standard form. There's really just that one equation. Okay? So that one was quick. It was just y equals 5. Nice and easy. Okay? Now let's look at, need some more room down here, these points. Well, again, flowchart says I have to find the slope first. So I'm, like always, going to start with the slope. So for this problem on the left, I've got 12 minus 4 over 1 minus a negative 3. So 8 over 4, so my slope is 2. Okay, then I decide I have to pick my path, right? Well, unfortunately, I don't have a y-intercept. I have a point. So I have to keep going this direction and use point slope form. Okay, so y minus, it doesn't matter which point you choose. I'm just going to go with 112 because they're both positive. So y minus 12 equals 2 times x minus 1. Distribute, add my 12. Okay, you'd think I'm done, but now that I've gotten to y equals mx plus b, I still have one more step to go to get to standard form. Ax plus by equals c. So I'm going to have to move this 2x over by subtracting. And then I'm going to have to multiply everything by a negative 1 so that the a is no longer negative. There's my final answer. A lot of work for that one problem. Again, take a look at that problem and realize that if you don't have any work and all you have is the final answer, I'm going to be suspicious because there's a lot of steps involved. Okay, so we start again. Once again, I have to start with the slope, back up at the top. So I've got 17 minus 12 over 4 minus 4. Well, this is looking promising because it's 5 over 0. I remember that that is undefined, which makes me think of Vux. Woohoo! Because it's a Vux, I know this x gives me my equation of just x equals, I'll look up here, either way, x equals 4. And because Hoy and Vux are special cases, I don't actually have to go through all of the steps, because that is, again, all three forms. This is point slope, this is slope intercept, this is standard, it's everything. Okay? So I'm done with that problem. Nice and quick. All right, just a couple more. Hang it in there. Now I've got graphs, but again, that flowchart is still in the picture here because it says the words write an equation. The title is called Writing an Equation. So first step, like always, find slope. So on this graph over here, there's some dots for you to count. So we've got 1, 2, you know my little board's off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then over 1, 2, 3. So m is 7/3. Okay, cool. Then I have to decide, okay, do I have a y-intercept or do I have a point? Well, lucky us, it's on the y-axis right there, so I have y-intercept. I get to jump all the way down to y equals mx plus b. So my y-intercept, b equals -2, and I can go straight to y equals 7/3 x minus 2. But they want standard form, so I have to go one step further to get to my final destination. So I'm going to subtract 7/3 x. So -7/3 x plus y equals -2. Now again, this is not good on two accounts. I can't have this negative right here, and I can't have 7/3. I can't have a fraction. So I'm going to multiply by a negative to get rid of the negative, and then a 3 to get rid of that 7/3 because it's the denominator. So then I multiply all the way across. So I get 7x minus 3y equals 6. Here's my final answer. Okay? Same exact process on the next one. So if you want to pause this video right now and try this next one on your own, feel free. It's literally the exact same as the one I just did. If you don't want to pause, that's fine. I'll work through it right now. So again, my flow chart says I start at the top where it says find the slope. So looking at this, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It says negative, so my slope is going to be -1/2. Done the first step, then I know that I can go to the left, to the y-intercept, because it's actually crossing the y-axis right here on my graph. Which means I can jump straight down to y equals mx plus b. So my y-intercept up there is 3. So y equals -1/2 x plus 3, which is nice. But then, to get standard form, I'm going to add that 1/2 x over. So I've got 1/2 x plus y equals 3. Almost good, except that I can't have this fraction here, so I'm going to multiply by 2 because it's the denominator. And I get x plus 2y equals 6. That would be my final answer. Okay? Hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming. Just know that that flow chart really and truly is your best friend. It walks you through every single step of the process. So if you get confused on the order, or it's like we spend 10 minutes doing one problem, I can't remember why we did what and what order we went in, that flow chart walks you through it, okay? The next slide here is just about your TEKS checklist. We haven't colored very many things yet this unit. In fact, I think this is the only thing we have colored. So now you are able to color in the box about standard form right there. We will eventually get to all the other ones, but for now, just color in that box right there. Let me know how you're feeling about standard form. That is the next step in Schoology, so if you've done that, then you're cool. You're good to go on to step 3 or 4. I don't know what step it is, but color in your checklist, and then you can practice.